So by this point, you guys should have a very solid understanding of a few different concepts, really. We chatted about what it means to be a business analyst, what that role really encompasses, what a business analyst does, their different variations of responsibilities. BAs at core, they are really just a liaison between stakeholders and the technical team. They are in the intermediate, in the crossroads of the business and technical sides. All right. A business analyst's main responsibility is really just to ensure that the proper application is being created, requirements are being gathered and documented, that the business is heading in the direction that it is supposed to. Okay. Think about what that word means. Business analyst. You are an expert in a certain business process. And that can mean a million different things. Okay. But at core, there's just some very common responsibilities that the business analyst needs to execute on, right? One of those things is gathering requirements. As a BA, it's going to be your job to have conversations with stakeholders. Now, just to recap, what is a stakeholder? Who is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is basically an entity, a group, organization, a company, whatever, that has a financial obligation, that has a incentive, all right, for a company to do well. Right? They are owners of a company. They basically purchase a product or want to create a product. All right, those are stakeholders. They have shares within a company, and with that, they have influence. All right. BAs work with stakeholders because stakeholders have a vision. They have an idea that they want to execute. That idea is mainly just, hey, I want to create an application. These are my thoughts. Please help me organize and deliver on my thoughts. Those are the stakeholders. Stakeholders will share their idea and their concepts with business analysts who will follow the business analyst process. They will gather requirements from them, document them, share those requirements with developers and testers, and just ensure that the proper application is being created. That is their overall role, right? They need to document and analyze, right? Meaning after requirements are collected from stakeholders, the business analysts are going to create different kinds of documentation. And we're going to get into what kind of documentation that really is. All right. Ashua, thanks for joining. So more on that later on. For BAs, they have meetings with stakeholders. All right. I'm going to go through the entire process in a little bit. But in these meetings, they ask questions. They learn from their stakeholders. Hey, what do our stakeholders need? What are they telling us? Let's figure everything out, right? Let's analyze their requirements and see if everything makes sense. Let's give our input. BAs will take requirements, document them, and they'll work together to get those documentations finalized. They're going to analyze requirements based on certain criteria and conditions to see if requirements are actually attainable, if they're specific enough, if they are actually feasible for the company to make. Okay, that is their overall responsibility. All right. Once these requirements are documented properly, they're signed off, stakeholders have approved them, BAs have approved them. That's when these requirements are given to a technical team to develop and test. Okay. So, and that's pretty much it. And there's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes, but this is just an entire summary of what BAs do from a very, very high level, right? There are different types of BAs as well, okay? You don't need to remember all the specifics of each. I don't need you to memorize any of this, really. This particular section, it's more just so for your own information. No one's going to be like, hey, what's the difference between a business process analyst and a user experience analyst? You're not going to get that, okay? So don't go crazy over memorizing that. Because the reality is, once you are put in a position, you will have multiple hats. No one position is the same as the other in this particular industry. Every professional does a combination of different things. So we learn a certain structure, a certain process, a certain format, and those are the foundations. But in reality, in practice, you may do all these things, you may only do a part of it. Okay. What that will be, you can never be sure until you get the role. All right. So it might be a thing that you have to perform all these different things or just some of it. There are certain BAs whose only role is just to gather requirements. They have meetings with stakeholders all day. They listen to them, they gather requirements, they jot these notes down, they create different documentations, and they send the document out to their team. They don't do much else. Others BAs do research on the market. They look at market trends. They look at data. They look at, hey, what is the direction that our business is going right now? And where do we need it to go? They are an expert in their industry. They know how this industry runs. They're future tellers as well. Okay. So you may have some of those roles, you may not have. All right. That's just important for you to just understand what that is, really. Okay. Business process analysts, they just understand business processes. Model process flows. What is a model process flow? An application state. A process flow is a keyword, it's a terminology. It is an end-to-end process. So process flow just means, hey, what is the process of our application, or what is the process of our business? You guys follow processes every single day in almost every aspect of your life. The process is just literally step one, step two, step three, up until the last step. That's the process. If you guys want to pull out 20 bucks from the ATM, there's a certain process you must understand, which is, hey, for me to do that, I gotta have a debit card, I gotta have a bank account, my card must be active, I need to go to an actual branch that is open during business hours. I put my card in, the chip side facing up, card gets scanned, security goes on, behind the scenes, all that. If the card is active, the bank is open, then I can get it. Okay. If not, then can't really do much after that. Okay. But you go into the bank, you put your card in the ATM, enter your PIN, valid PIN, pull out 20 bucks, leave. There's a million processes that are hitting every single step that you take. And there's somebody that has thought of all these things already. Okay, what happens if I put in the wrong PIN number? What happens if I put in the wrong PIN number 3 times? All those processes are documented visually. So if you work at Chase, there's someone who has worked at Chase who has thought about all those scenarios. Okay. What if this guy changed his PIN 10 minutes ago? When can he activate his card again? How soon can he withdraw money? If he withdrew $100 in this one machine, can he withdraw another $100 in another machine next to it? There are limitations, there are processes, there are requirements that must be followed. Okay. And a model process flow really just puts that into a design. Okay. And as a BA, you may have to create these process flows. That is what it is. Okay, but more on that when we cover documentation. Application state just means, what is the current state of our application? What does it currently do? Okay, that is the as is state. Right. And the to be state is, how do we want this application to be? Okay. Later on, when we cover documentation more in detail, we will cover these kind of documentations, because part of your responsibilities as a DA will be to outline this entire end-to-end process. All right. Whatever the application does, there needs to be documentation pretty much for, right? But right now, we're going to focus on the overall process. Okay. Requirement analysts, they just gather requirements, analyze them, work with developers, work with stakeholders. They are RLIs. System analysts are experts in systems. Okay, for you to understand what they do, you need to understand what a functional requirement is and how it differs from a business requirement. Right? You will hear these terminologies a lot: functional specs, business requirements, functional requirements, system requirements. The key difference here is business requirements versus functional requirements. This is what you need to highlight as a difference. What is a business requirement and what is a functional requirement? Okay. A business requirement focuses on the process. Okay. Focuses on the process. Whereas a functional requirement focuses on how the system handles. Okay. Functional requirements are much more detailed. They're about the application, whereas business requirements are about the overall business process. What do we need to actually follow? An example would be something like this. Hey, if you try to enter your PIN number wrong 3 times, then you're not allowed to get in the system. Okay. A functional requirement would get a lot more detailed with it. They would basically say, okay, this constitutes a valid PIN, this constitutes an invalid PIN. All right. Actually, an even better example of this would be something like this. A business requirement would be like, okay, as a Chase Bank customer, you must have a PIN number for your Chase debit card. Simple. It's a business process. Every account holder for every bank is going to have a debit card. Okay. And every debit card has to have a PIN number. And these PIN numbers need to be 4 digits long, no letters. Okay. But this is a very simple business requirement. You're a Chase Bank customer, you got to have a business debit card. Okay. A functional requirement would be like, okay, the PIN number must be 4 digits, not be alphabetical, cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4, or let's say any 4 numbers repeated, and it never expires. Do you kind of see the difference? Business requirements, business process. Functional requirements, how does the application handle this system app process really? Okay. Functional requirements are drawn from business requirements. Okay, they're a lot more detailed, they're a lot more technical. Okay, and as we cover examples, you'll begin to see the difference between those. All right. Okay, data analyst. So a role with BAs is like data modeling. And like I mentioned, analyzing businesses. And that goes more to the data analytics side of being a BA. You will hear this word as well, business intelligence. Okay, BI reporting, data analyst. You basically work with data because I want you guys to think about it. What is the importance of data? Data is very valuable. Your data is collected every single day on applications that you guys use, on Amazon, on Facebook, on Instagram. Everything is tracked because tracking your data forms a pattern. Okay. If every day for 7 days you go on Instagram, first thing in the morning when you wake up, you open up your phone it knows when you turn it on. Immediately it knows. It has a log. Everything you do on your phone is logged. Every single thing. All right. You turn on your phone at 8:05. You open up Instagram at 8:05. You go to the Search Explorer page and you scroll for 10, 15 minutes on a Monday. You do that on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, you take a break. You wake up at 9 o'clock. Sunday, 10 o'clock, whatever. If you keep doing these things, a pattern forms. And based on this pattern, companies can understand what you're going to be doing the next day. Okay, they can form a very highly accurate prediction of you. And you have different profiles. Okay, some people are active at night, some people are active at day, some people go shopping at 12 o'clock, some go at 3 o'clock. Okay, these patterns are created for you. These are created, right? And based on these patterns and profiles, decisions will be made. And it's a job of the business uh, data analyst to understand this kind of data, to design it, to report on it, to make suggestions for companies. Okay. Like if I have the data of like 1,000 different users, I will look at their data and I will be like, hey, okay, based on this pattern, this is what I expect them to do the next day, the next week, the next month. Okay. And if you want to sell them things, you can use that data. Okay. And BAs are responsible for that. Okay. Because as companies collect your information, that information is stored. Companies like, hey, how can we best sell you more stuff? That's how they're going to figure it out. Right. And that is also kind of a role of some BAs. Okay. Not exactly with the example that I used, because my example was more about like customers, people who use Amazon and Instagram, like that. But this can apply for many, many different positions, many different roles. Okay. All right. Moving on, user experience analyst. So what is user experience? Also a very like a terminology that you guys need to understand and know. Um, User experience, think what the word means. What kind of experience is the user have when they use your application? Is your application easy to use? Is it simple? Is it straightforward? Uh, can a 10-year-old use it? Can a 6-year-old use it? Is this application for the CEO of a company? Is it for the finance department? Okay. Uh, what is like the look and feel of your system? Do I enjoy using the app? Do I not like using the app? How can we make this user experience better so that our users stay in the system for longer? The longer they use our system, the more money we generate, the more revenue we generate. We want to give our users the best experience possible. Hence Google reviews, hence all these things, because experiences are important. Having happy, seamless customers is important. Okay. So there are people who are experts at UX, at user experiences, who think about all these things. So to give you an example, right? Think about Microsoft Word, this application we are using right here. There is a group of people, a team, who has thought about every single thing for this, the design, the experience, how big the font should be, what kind of fonts should we offer, where should the drop down be? When you click the drop down, what is displayed? How is it displayed? Alphabetical order. You actually have an example of the fonts over here. You have recently used fonts, headings. Where do all the buttons go? What color should the buttons be? If I hover above it, what happens? This is an experience. And the nicer it is, the better it is for Microsoft because more people won't want to use it. If Microsoft Word was trash, then it would get replaced by something better. But it's not. It's the best, it's like one of the best applications you're gonna find. All right. It's genius. Think about even the apps you guys use on your phone. Even the icons are thought out because there's a lot of psychology that goes on behind it. What color should we make it? What design should we? What is the most eye-catching? Think about the Instagram icon. It is a certain color for a reason because it stands out. It is indistinguishable. That is user experience. Okay, that is user design. All right. People think about these things. Okay. And once you begin to even use Instagram, like the ease of use, how they keep you in, how they retain your concentration, your focus, your time, like that is all a part of experience. Okay? And as a BA, you need to think about that a little bit. Okay, I know you want to make these requirements. I know you want to like build this system, but let's also think about how it would be to use the system because no one wants to use an outdated system. No one wants to use a system that is not appealing. It's gonna quickly lose traction. right? The idea might be good, but if it looks like trash and it performs like trash, not gonna use it. Right. Okay. All right. That's user experience. If you guys have any questions at any point, do let me know. All right. Another point that I want to highlight is this. We've talked about different team members and different roles. All right. Team, highlight that again. Talked about different team members. You talked about project manager, BA, QA, developer, DBA, some DevOps here and there. There's a bunch of different people that IT professionals work with, but those are like pretty much the main ones. We talked about Scrum roles. What is a Scrum Master? What's a product manager? What's a product owner? These are terminologies that you must know. Like you have to know it as a BA, as anyone that works in tech. It's like asking a nurse, hey, like, do you know what a CRNA is? If you don't know it, it sounds kind of weird. Do you know what anesthesiology is? If you say no, like it doesn't make any sense, does it? If you have to change bank, tell her like, hey, um, do you know what a savings account is? And they say no, it makes zero sense. Okay. So as a BA, you need to have a minimum level of knowledge, understanding. And certain things are like BA 101. And a lot of this is 101. Okay. The good thing is, uh, for a lot of roles, you just need to know 101. Side note, like one tip that I make for you guys is this: focus on the fundamentals, focus on the core information. If you have a solid understanding of the core, everything you learn will draw from that. Your confidence will increase, your knowledge will increase, your you'll just be a lot better candidate for a position and a role because you will have that fundamental concepts down. And one mistake that many people make is not like solidifying their core knowledge and trying to understand way too many things at one time. No, nurture the core concepts and understanding. Deep dive into things. All right, but it's very key. So, with that said, I covered a lot of the team members, but I do want to shed light on two more because they work closely with BAs, and you should understand and be comfortable with the terminologies. One is a product manager. So earlier I mentioned BAs can take many different roles. Okay, they work with requirements, they work with product. All right, when I mean product, I mean an application. That is what a product manager is. They manage a product, they manage an application. Product owner, same thing. They manage a product, they manage an application. Okay, that's what I mean by the word product. Okay, so let's think about what a product manager is. A product manager is basically an individual who creates a strategy for our product, who creates a strategy for our application. It's their vision of an application that gets created. They may be a stakeholder. They may also be on your side, on your team as well. Okay. Stakeholders typically from the client side. You work for them, it's their idea, it's their vision. So there may be a product manager there who says, hey, this is what I want you guys to create for me. This is my idea. This is my strategy. Okay. Please work with me to create this system. That's what a product manager is. They create the strategy. They think about, hey, okay, these are the requirements for our application. They set a roadmap. This is phase one, phase two, phase three. They're the ones that basically tell you what features they want for the system. Okay. And they think about what is the feature of our application and how we should basically get there. They're strategists, they're visionary. They are the ones who define what the product is. Okay, that is what a product manager is. They define what the product is. Okay, very, very key to know this. Question? Okay, product owner. This is a role. So in Scrum environments, different people assume different roles. You may be a BA, but you may also assume the role of product owner. It's like an elevated role for a business analyst. Okay. Some companies make a difference between the two different roles. BA, I'm a product owner. End of the day, roles are just titles in companies. And they honestly don't mean shit sometimes. Okay. Because you will do a million different things. But a product owner is basically the individual that just facilitates working with the backlog. Their entire role is to make sure that we are maximizing our value of work. And what does that mean? So they're the ones who decide what requirements to work on. If it's our first sprint, they're the ones that tell you, hey, for this sprint, guys, we need to work on these 5 requirements. Out of this 100 that we have, these 5 requirements are key. These 5 requirements are critical. Let's first start with these 5 requirements. This is why they're important. And then let's work on number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is their role as a product owner. Okay. And that's what it means by maximizing the value of work. Because if you guys recall, when we did our example on Facebook, we had a whole bunch of different requirements. The like button, the wall, the comment, create account, delete account, add profile, like a million different things. But out of those million requirements, how do you decide what is the most important? Hey, you're getting disconnected. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I have no idea why it keeps doing that.
No worries, no worries. Okay. All right, let's continue. So
I'm trying to switch to my laptop, so sorry.
no worries. So do your thing. Okay. So that's what I mean. Maximizing the value of work. If you have 100 requirements to work on, those 100 requirements are priorities. And it is the role of the product owner to verify that the highest priority items are worked on first. Okay, that's it. They facilitate working with the backlog. All right, and they keep track of what direction is our application really going towards. And they want to make sure that this vision, the vision of the stakeholders is what we are working towards. They understand that. Okay, and it's their job to facilitate that. It's a role position. Technically, as a BA, like you may be doing that as well, right? Because roles are very variable, right? Okay. Any questions? So we've covered this before. What skills are needed by a business analyst? There's a multitude of things, really. You have to have the communication skills because you will work with stakeholders. You work with higher ups in companies, people who are very direct, people who are business oriented, very confident, type A personalities. Believe me, everyone that works in this industry is like type of personality, much like healthcare, much like finance, much like all of these different things. If you want to build a product right, you work with confident people, capable people, people who know what they're doing. Yeah. Communication for a BA is key. You need to know how to handle situations. Soft skills are important, and so are technical skills too, because you need to know what the right questions to ask, how to ask them, who to ask them to. Unfortunately, some of it is like bureaucratic as well, right? Like who do you need to work with? How do you need to work with them? Conflict resolution is key, all right? A bunch of different things. Negotiation is important too. People will not always agree on how applications should be created. What should be the priority? Someone will have a different opinion than yours. How do you handle that? You need to know that. You can't be rude and like overconfident about it. You must go a certain way about things. For instance, if we're all working on Facebook on Sprint 1, and Nasheen says, "Hey, I think we should work on the create account like requirement first." I think that should get priority over add profile picture. And I disagree with her. I will have to say why I disagree. She will have to say why she thinks she is correct. And then we need to work together to form a resolution because you're working with the same team. So negotiations are critical. And how you do that, you lay out the facts, you lay out the documentation. Okay, you analyze, you have to critically think. So think about it. Like how can you create if you cannot create a Facebook account, how can you add a profile picture? Right? Like it makes no sense. But people like bring up these kind of things. And our example is a very obvious one, very simple one. You cannot add a profile picture if you cannot create an account. What if I disagree? How do you handle that? Right? Certain process. Problem solving, same thing. You are a problem solver. Companies have problems. Your main role is being a problem solver as a BA. Okay. Our company needs something. We don't have it. Help us get it. Simple. Okay. You solve organizational problems, system problems, and you recommend solutions. That is our role. Hey, I want to build a system. I don't know how to build it. Help me with it. Figure this out for me. That's it. You're a BA. I tell you what I want. I may not know everything. You ask the right questions. You document everything. Rate the process. Recommend how we can get there. Done. Okay. That. Facilitate meetings. BAs work with meetings. You are very meeting heavy, very communication heavy. A lot of your job is communication, working with people, chatting with them, gathering requirements, and then documenting those requirements. You are not the ones who are creating the system or testing the system. Your responsibilities and role starts before that process. Think about SDLC. Think about software development lifecycle. Software starts with an idea, there's a plan, a design is created, requirements are created. Only after requirements are created can we begin to build the system. And your main job is within the requirements portion. Okay. Organization, working on different people, taking notes, sure. You must be organized. You must be a planner. You must be a scheduler. You need to make sure everything is going according to track. All right, what is happening in the application? What is the current status? What are we working towards? Who's working on what? You need to be on top of these things. Right? And last, critical thinking. That should be just obvious. You have to be smart to be a BA. It's not a job for dummies because you must work with people. You must work with operations, people who are investing lots of money into the system, people who are developing applications. It's very simple to kind of overlook, but not everyone can do it. And not everyone can really be a BA. You need to have a certain basic set of knowledge and skills and tools. A lot of it also just common sense too, right? Be smart. That's it. You guys are more than capable of that. That's not something that I have any doubt about really with anyone who has done in these courses, these classes. Besides, you would be surprised. During like 2020, like 2021, when tech was like really booming, like people were getting hired left and right. It was such a phenomenal time, right? Because there was such an abundance of work. And the threshold to even get in was like super low. Of course, things are changing now, right? And things have changed a lot this last year. So just gotta go with things. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah. No. Cool. All right. Let's discuss requirements. So, what are requirements? I've discussed that a dozen times already. You need to be able to understand and define what a requirement is very simply. It's just what the client needs the application to do. A requirement is something that the client wants. It is a feature of the application. That is a requirement. In two words, it's a client's need. That's it. Okay. Very general terminology, but it can get a lot deeper because there are different kinds of requirements. Functional requirements, non-functional requirements. Those are the umbrella terminology because functional requirements and non-functional requirements captures everything underneath. Okay. Requirements being on top, functional requirements, non-functional requirements being side by side. Okay. And everything else is just a detail of those two terminologies. Okay. Functional requirements are basically just like technical functions. They're things that you can click on, things that you can enter text with, things that you can interact with. Those are functional requirements. Okay. Things that the product must do. Okay? Design button is a functional requirement. How it works is if you click the design button, the design options are opened up. And then you can click on the design option. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay. You can click on colors and then you can choose your colors. Okay. Click on fonts, choose your fonts. Paragraph spacing, choose your spacing. Okay. But it starts that design and then it gets a lot more detailed and microscopic as you go further down. Okay. But that is a functional requirement because that's a feature of the application. A non-functional requirement is different. Non-functional requirements are things that you cannot look and like you cannot sorry like that you cannot really click on. Okay. um they're more like performance, the look and feel, the experience, the speed. For instance, a non-functional requirement for Gmail will be something like worldwide, let's say 50 million users can log in within 1 hour and not crash the server. That's something like a non-functional requirement. It's a performance. Okay. Um, something else would be like for Google, if I go on the search bar, type in the word brown bear, hit enter, my response time is a performance. Okay. There's a difference between a quarter-second response time and a 5-second response time. Major difference. There's a difference between 0.1 second response time and a 1 second response time. That is performance. That is a non-functional requirement. If our client says something like, hey, if you go on Google search, you type in the word brown bear, you hit enter, you should get a response within 0.5 seconds. That's a non-functional requirement. Okay. A functional requirement will be something like go to Google, type in brown bear, hit enter, get a response. No time involved in that. Okay. And there's different types of non-functional requirements. You do not need to have this memorized. Okay. But what you do need to understand is performance, usability. Okay. Usability refers to how easy is it used to use the application. And what the word usability, ease of use. Does it hurt my eyes to look at Microsoft Word? No, it's pretty clear, pretty easy. Font is by default is big enough. If this was the default size for Microsoft Word, hard to see. Okay. Pretty reasonable. All right. How easy is it to use it? If I highlight something, easy to see or hard to see? No, it still looks pretty solid. Okay. That is usability, look and feel, ease of use. Performance is fast. Operational requirements is something like, okay, Microsoft Word should work on Windows, Macs. What is the operational systems that it will work on? Okay, some have applications only for Mac, some only for PC. Maintainability and portability, like it's just like how changeable is an application? How scalable is it? How easy can we build on the system over time? Security, self-explanatory. What is the security behind the system? What are the requirements for that? Certain applications have different levels of security. Cultural, political requirements, that depends on the culture and the politics behind wherever the system is going. Is this for Africa, Europe, Russia, this and that? You understand how the world works, guys. I want to explain that to you. Applications are built towards that. All right, and there are requirements for that. Certain countries don't deal with certain things, and that's for you to understand about. USA a lot more open up countries, right? Legal requirements, very key as to PA. When you build systems, you need to know the laws and the rules, and that has to be explained to you. All right, and systems are built based on those legal rules, right? Like 8 healthcare applications, HIPAA, financial applications, you have a bunch of laws, and you need to know those. And if you're working on an application where that is important, then that will be explained to you. You will not be, I highly doubt that they'll ever make you in charge of the person who gathers legal like law for a project. That's not your job. It's the job of a lawyer. Okay, you're the one supposed to be told what needs to be done. Just understand that. This is an important word though. 508 compliance. I highlighted it for a reason. 508 compliance is disability. That's the word 508 compliance means. Disability laws are a thing. If you are signing for Obamacare and the website and like you're like partially blind, there might be certain tools that you may be able to use to help you with that website. Other private compliance laws might be something like this, like color. Certain colors have different contrast, which is easier to see. For instance, black and white. If you notice, Microsoft Word, that page is white and the basic font is black. Why? Because it's the most contrast, right? It is the easiest for you to see. All right, it just makes sense. But what if this was like by default light gray? Probably a lot harder to see now. Yeah, makes no sense, right? But that's because you wouldn't think about these things, but someone has. It's common sense for us, but it needs to be figured out by people first, right? And all documented. This is what happens behind the scenes, right? Okay, questions, thoughts, comments so far? Let's take a moment to kind of check in with everyone. Machine, Tasnia, Shuha, what are you thinking so far? Any thoughts?
I do have one question. This is kind of separate.
Mhm.
Well, not separate, but I was just wondering if we would ever go into like a mock project of like
Mhm.
what that would look like, documentation would look like.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. That is the next step. So the first thing is kind of me covering the process with you, and the next is me giving you examples. All right. So I'm actually preparing a certain project for you guys to kind of like cover and learn. The very next like thing that we're gonna do with myself is actually me describing a system to you guys. All right. And you guys analyzing, coming up with requirements, coming up with a certain um, documentation for that, the same way a BA would. So it is very key that you guys work on an actual project, on a live project. Okay. You can't really go in the market without it. Although people do, it doesn't make sense to what you mentioned is very critical to have. And yeah, absolutely. So first, understand the process. Second, actually do it. So yeah, that's in the works though. Okay. Anything
So
else?
during that process of that mock project, right?
Mhm.
Uh, when you're sitting down with the client, do you ever just like how you have it labeled down right now from functional to non-functional, like you're kind of interviewing your client, right?
Yes.
do you kind of just kind of in your own go by down this list? Is this how it goes back and forth? Do they, because I know sometimes they can present their requirements to you, or is it always like you asking them questions and follow-up questions? Or do they ever come prepared with like, here's what I want?
Well,
Uh,
combination. So they're gonna come in and they're gonna tell you, hey, this is our vision for the application. This is what we want. This is at least what we know what we want. Okay, we may not completely know what we want exactly. All right, we may rely on you for many things. But this is like at least the ballpark of what we would like to make.
So you
Okay.
help them create a vision too at times depending on like what their needs are. So I guess a good, like you said, this is for like Foundations 101. You could kind of refer back to this if you are completely unsure. Say every company will give you like a orientation phase of where they run you through how their company makes things work. But if you're putting down that you're coming in with experience, then they might have this expectation that you fully know how to conduct this interview. So would
Okay.
you say this is a good guideline to follow off, like as
Yes.
a newbie?
Okay. That's actually a phenomenal question. So let me like kind of set the stage for you guys on what to expect in this industry and in an actual project. When you come on board, you may have a million different roles, or you may have like just very basic, straightforward roles. But at the end of the day, you will not know exactly what you are doing until you have some legitimate experience. These meetings are not just you by yourself asking questions. Typically, you're going to have a little side step where you are following somebody and you are watching how they interact with the client, how they ask them questions. Because when you start day one, it's very, very unlikely that they expect you to just know what you're doing immediately, begin asking the right questions immediately. Okay, it's just not feasible. You need to be kind of trained a little bit. Hey, this is our system. This is what we're doing. This is our project. This is where we are. This is where we're going to get to. There should be a BA that you work with who brings you up to speed and helps explain the environment to you. So that in these meetings, you initially, your first week, your first month, you should not be the person who is even doing all these things yet. Initially, you are kind of observing and then analyzing at the same time. Okay, if I see something wrong, if I have comments, thoughts, or questions, then I'm going to ask them. All right, the stakeholders will come in with their vision. You need to have the proper tools and know the right questions to ask them. They may not have everything, and it may be your job to kind of fill in those blanks. But I don't want you guys to think that, hey, this is all on me immediately. This is my role, and like I'm the only one who needs to do this. Okay, that should not be the case, really. Okay, um, it it might be that, hey, listen, like we need you to start working on departments immediately, start documenting immediately. That's going to be a bit tough. Okay. But that does happen at the same time. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question as well? Or
Documentation, because you're coming with experience, you should know the flow of at least the documentation portion of it, but at
yeah,
least conduct an interview because it deals with a stakeholder. They'll have a wingman for you until you can fly on your own, basically.
right. You should be working with a team for all of this.
Yeah,
And
no
they
matter
should
how
be
experienced you are, they'll orient
exactly.
you to their company's way. So I think we have
Yes.
a little bit of leeway time to observe and like really grasp what's happening,
Hmm.
right?
Exactly
Okay.
that. Hmm. So when you come on board, even if you come on board with 5 years, 6 years, 7 years on your resume, does not matter. Okay, if you and I were to start on a new company tomorrow, excuse me, or next week or whenever, I would be as lost as you are because we have the idea of what to do. We just don't know how they do it yet. So it takes a little bit of time to kind of get our wheels moving. We know what needs to be done, but first we need to understand what is happening and we need to be explained what is happening. If you and I were to start working at Wells Fargo Bank next week on some random project they have, I too have no idea what they want. All I know is the process that is involved. Okay. So you use that idea of the process, that concept of the process, and you basically execute on that. Okay. What who are the end users? What kind of system are you building? What are your business processes? Lay everything out. Okay. And let me analyze that. Let me come to my questions. These things happen over time. So you're not expected to know everything immediately. When I give you information in a meeting, you are able to sit down and think it over. Okay. Like decisions should not happen immediately. You should be able to kind of process everything. Right. That is the reality of the industry. Yes, you need to be smart. You need to like think quickly. You need to make decisions on um at the moment sometimes for many things. But for bigger, more important decisions, you should be able to map everything out. You should be able to plan everything out. Okay. So even though you come with experience, this is still an area where we work together, we take time to learn, and we want to like work on making the right decisions. Cool. Make sense? Anything else? Sneha, Noshin, anything from you guys?
No, not really. I was also wondering if we could do something that's a bit more hands-on.
Yes. Yeah,
But that
absolutely.
really does answer my question.
Perfect. Yeah, the next class, the next time we have class, I'm gonna be doing that with you guys. Really.
Okay.
If I don't have Brad or to do it, I'll have that class with you. Okay. Okay. Next, be it understand purpose. What is the reason we're building the system? Who are the clients, stakeholders, requirements, constraints, assumptions? These are all terminologies that you must know. Also, like, let me know if I take too long covering a certain point, because I do like reiterate myself pretty frequently and often. And if you guys capture the idea and you don't need further explanation on that, please feel free to stop me so that I don't cover it 2, 3 times as well. Okay. You must understand the purpose of a product. Why are we building it? Who is it being built for? Applications can be built for one person. It can be built for 10 people. It can be built for a CEO only. It can be built for a CFO. It can be built for an entire finance department. Applications can be built for, let's say, the financial manager of a hedge fund only, and him and his team. It could be 5 people. It could be 100 people. It could be 1,000,000 people. We need to understand who these people are, what their roles are, because applications will cater to these individuals. So who are the users? Requirement constraints. Constraint, very important word. It's a limitation. What can we do? What can we not do? What is possible versus what is not possible? Think about 30 years ago. Because it was very important actually. Think about like 15 years ago, right? Or like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever. Like when I used dial-up internet, for you to get an image to load might take like 30 seconds, because that was the limitation, the upper constraint of our technological capabilities.
30
Even,
seconds was short, to say the least.
yeah, that was like being generous. All right. Like, yeah, you remember, like it was ridiculous. If a company back then said, hey, we want it done in like 1 second, not possible. Like no matter what you would say, not possible. The BA would be like, no, we cannot do that. Not a thing. Okay. If someone says, hey, I want to build an application that allows human beings to telepathically talk to each other with my application, it reads their mind. It puts their words into this Microsoft Word like machine. A BA would be like, what the hell are you saying? Right. But it's a valid, right? That's a constraint. You can't do that. And those are things that you may have to understand at work. Okay. I know it's like a kind of a joke, but no, it's real. It's a thing. Naming conventions, documentation is done in certain formats. You need to know naming conventions. Every company has naming conventions. Mine, yours, everyone will have their own different thing. Requirements are ran in a structured procedural process. And yes, we need to write them in a very clear manner, but they also may follow a certain procedure. Assumptions. What kind of assumptions are being made? Simple. Nothing too much more than that. Requirements have 4 phases. So solicitation, analysis, specification, validation. Elicitation is just like drawing requirements from stakeholders, asking them the right questions, getting the right information. What can this look like? Let's discuss like the process a little bit. Okay. All right. Let's say it looks a little bit different from every company. The core at the foundation, it really is the same thing. Stakeholders and BA team will get together to discuss the requirements and what is basically needed for the application. This can include project managers, product managers, business analysts. Typically that, right? And whatever stakeholders. Stakeholders are very general terminology, but okay, very general terminology. A stakeholder can be like, hey, listen, you guys work at HP. I work for the government. I hire you guys to build me a system. I represent the government. Okay, I represent Obamacare. Let's say that. I'm a product manager from Obamacare. We hired you guys to build the system for us. Your team, my team has meetings together. I explain to you what is needed. You guys document all that, break the requirements, build a system for me. That's a meeting. There's multiple of these meetings that will happen. For my team, I can have BAs, I can have project managers, I can have product owners, anything. Your team, same thing. You may have BAs, product managers, product owners, whatever. Okay. For our example, let's say that our client's team consists of BAs and one product. And from our vendor team, BAs. Okay. That every company is different. Okay, just keep that in mind. You may also have a senior BA. Okay. There should be someone in your company who is a senior. Most likely than not, you will probably not come in as a senior because senior BA, they need to like know what is going on in the system. Okay, it may be possible you get hired as a senior BA, but do not think that you will assume the role of a senior immediately. It's not possible. If you get hired as a senior BA, it means, okay, this person knows the fundamentals of being a business analyst. They know the documentation process, the requirements process, they have experience in it. They know how to do the job. But whenever you start a new project, a new company, you will learn as you go. Okay. So even if you get hired as one, don't stress. My first role when I got hired was a lead of a project. I had no idea what I was doing. You learn as you go. You struggle in the beginning. I guarantee you struggle in the beginning. Everybody does. I did. Like it's normal. Okay. You struggle to grow. And then once you're past that, it's like, okay, cool. What's the next challenge? I used to like wake up back when I was like 24, 25, like, hey, I don't know if today's the day that they figure I don't know anything, but over time you learn. And eventually you wake up like it's any other day. That takes time. When my sister started, first month, first 2 months, first 3 months even, like first 2 months, difficult for her. She can tell you all about that. She's working all day, not really sure what to do, learning as she goes, but she handled it. Everyone can handle it. You're going to be given a chance. They hire you for a reason because you beat out the competition, because they have faith that you can do the job. They put in time and effort into you. So they trust you can do it. Okay. So don't worry about any of that. The main thing is this: two different teams will get together. Okay. Some from the client side, some from the vendor side. Okay. What I mean by client side versus vendor side is this. There are really two different situations you can have. Right. And there are some technical terminology that is involved. The example I gave right now is I work for the government. I'm a product, let's say, manager. You guys are working at HP. We hire you to build our system. We tell you guys what needs to be done. Okay, we're your client, you're the vendor. That's working with a partner. All right, you have someone that you are working for. Another example would be something like this: internal. Okay, where you are your own client, meaning that Amazon wants to build an application. So Amazon asks their own BAs and developers to build it for them rather than hiring HP. Do you see the difference? It is a pretty major one, right? Internal teams versus working with clients. Okay. Either you are building your own system for your own company, or you are building a system for someone that pays you to build it for them. That's the major difference. My company right now, I'm building a system for my own company. I don't work for another boss. Okay. But you may. And that's what I mean when I say client or team versus vendor. Okay. For ease of, let's say, just to make things easy for you guys, all right? Because when you go to interview, you need to have a certain story and you need to have an actual project. So when you get asked the question about, hey, we work on an actual project, hands-on, yes, it is key. It is critical. A lot of places teach you the fundamentals, which I'm doing right now, and they throw you in the market. You can get hired, but you will struggle. Okay, because the more you know, the more detailed everything is, the better this is. Okay. There's a reason why I take as much time as I do, but with these classes, it's all the information is provided. It's a lot of information. So for our example, for our project, we're going to say we work with our own internal project. Okay. Hey, I'm working at Chase. I work directly for Chase. I'm building an application for Chase. Or hey, I work at say MetLife. We're working on an application for MetLife. Our client is MetLife. All right, like this is our own system, same as mine. So I work my own BAs. Okay, let's say that you work with your product manager and a senior BA in the company. They tell you what the application is about, what needs to be done, what the requirements are. All right, so the product manager is the one who was basically talking to you. Okay, they explain to you the system. Hey, like we need an application. Let's say that I'm working for Amazon. This is an Amazon company now. Hey, we need a online like store. Users should be able to create an account. They should be able to buy different products. These products can range from a whole variety of categories, ranging from electronics to nutrition, pet food, whatever, like a million different things Amazon sells. Okay, and now they sell like groceries as well. Okay, point is the product manager, the BAs are going to tell you what the application is. They may give you presentations. This will be over the course of many, many meetings. Okay, it's called JAD sessions, Joint Application Development. This is where the stakeholders get together with the business analyst team and they discuss the application. I explain to you what the system is. Your job as a BA is going to be able to initially elicit the requirements from me, capture these requirements. Take notes of what I'm telling you about the system. That's the first route. Okay. We tell you what needs to be done. You write notes on that. You document that. You create design document. You create BRDs, FRDs, SRSs based on our information to you. Okay. We explain to you what needs to be done. You document it. Simple as that. How does documentation process happen? That's something else. Okay. What is the actual specifications for documentation? You need to learn as well. Okay. In the beginning, it's a little bit informal. Hey, this is the system. This is what we do. Over time, it gets more and more formal, okay? As more information is given. But overall, that's the first step. Okay? Requirements are explained to the VAs. These requirements are written as notes and then documented. What kind of documents do you create? Depends on what is needed by the company. You will be told what kind of document you need to create.
Hey, sorry to cut in,
Yes.
just to clarify. The product manager and senior BA, them having a chat session, is that between like the internally, like my company coming to me, or is this in general, doesn't matter if it's within the same company or if it's with an external client?
So chat session basically means it's a meeting that happens with the stakeholders and the business analyst team. Okay.
Doesn't matter where.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where. So for our example, we are going with the internal. We're not going with the client versus vendor team. Okay. We are saying that, hey, I work at Amazon and we are building an application for Amazon. That is what we're going with. Okay. That's what I mean by internal. Great question. All right. Cool. So yes, as a BA, you will be told what documentation to create. And there are different kinds of documentation that you need to know, that you need to understand. What is these documents? Business requirements document. BRD. What is a BRD? It's just a document that has all the business requirements. Based on this information that I tell you, you take notes, and then you formalize this document together as a team, individually, depending on your environment is. You work together for that. You do revisions. You guys have written essays at work. Essays for like school and all that. It's not too different from that. It's just a task you have to complete. Right? How you do that, we'll go through that. That's an actual hands-on experience. Right? BRD, you have functional requirement document. That's already. You have software requirements, specification, SRS, same thing as a BRD, FRD. Okay, the main difference between these two is business requirement document focuses on the business process. Functional requirement document focuses on how the application should handle this business process. Okay, in real world, you may just combine the two of them into one and save time instead of having to make two of these things. In some companies, you may not even make these documentation because these documents are really for waterfall. And in agile methodology, you don't really follow these documentation. You create user stories exactly. All right. You may create just user stories as well. Okay. You may create a use case. There's a whole bunch of different things, but that we're going to cover during the documentation portion. Okay. For now, let's just say you take these notes in these meetings and you create a user story. Take notes, create a user story in Jira. What is a user story? A user story is a requirement written in the perspective of the end. Okay. Once these user stories are written, you're going to actually finalize them. The tickets are put in Jira. They're passed around between BA to BA. They're reviewed by the team members, reviewed by the client. They're signed off by the seniors, and eventually they are finalized. Okay, they go from a different statuses: draft, let's say, in review, say revision needed, like finalized. Okay, there's a certain process behind requirements. First draft, second draft, done. If requirements need to rework, you will rewrite them, which is normal. It's fine. Okay, but think of it as like an essay. write them, they get analyzed, revised, whatever. Okay, that's how it is. So, of course, while this is happening, you are also analyzing requirements. Okay, because like I mentioned, requirements have 4 different phases. Requirements are prioritized against each other. Some are high, some are medium, some are low. Some need to be done this month, some can wait next year, or 6 months, or 3 months. So all I'm, okay, that is the requirements process, really. Just say gather, just say requirements process. Okay, so requirements be reviewed and finalized by the senior DA. Okay, can be product owner as well, does not matter. Every company is different. Like I mentioned, titles are different. It could be your CTO who was finalizing these things for you. It could be your head of technology. In my company, it was the head of development who's doing it. Doesn't matter. Okay, a senior level executive, a senior level official worker will finalize it. Okay, that's how it is. You will most likely just read, document, analyze, make sure it's created as expected. Okay? That will be your role, because that is the only role you can take as someone new in the industry. You will not be the one to sign off on them because you do not know how the system is. You are not the subject matter expert. And that's another thing that you can keep in mind. Subject matter experts, SME. Could also be SME. What is SME? SME is a subject matter expert. It's a role. Subject matter expert. This is a role that is given to someone in the company. It could be your product manager, it could be your senior BA. It is someone who knows their shit about the industry, about the business, about the application. They're the ones that you will take direction from. They're the senior in charge. That's what they call them, subject matter expert. You are not the SME. You are in your company, you have not been the SME. Okay? Because that's just a whole other bag that you don't want to open. Okay. All right. Moving on. So once the requirements are finalized, what does it mean to be finalized? Okay. Finalized means that the senior, or let's say SME, say senior SME, product manager, SME, whoever the person is, has signed off. Okay. Once the documentation is created, it's been analyzed, it's been revised, read by the team. We have no more changes coming in. The SME, the senior product manager, whoever, they sign off. They say, hey, we're good. Next one. Focus on the next task, the next requirements. We finalized 10 requirements. Great. Let's finalize 10 more for our next month. If you remember Agile, continuous flow of work. We have 100 different tickets to work on. We work on 10 now, 10 later. We create 5 new ones. Think about that flow. That's what I want you guys to think about with Agile Scrum that I've talked before. All this stuff you're learning now should come into play. It should really begin to click now and make sense. You should be able to see the entire overall process. What is really left for you guys for this course is the actual work. You should understand the process by this point. It's been taught several times over. This is very critical stuff, okay? What needs to be done though now is some more like details, some actual hands-on experience, some hands-on work. That's one thing. Second, you need to be able to explain these concepts as well. The same way that I'm teaching you this kind of stuff, you need to be able to teach it to somebody else, meaning that you should be able to learn that. This interview is just a demonstration of your abilities, of your knowledge, of your skills. If you guys are able to do assignments and like perform the actual work, then you will be able to explain yourself a lot easier than if I just taught you theory and you just memorized theory. No, you'll have to actually do the work too. It's going to help you a long way. With a project, working on documentation, it's going to go a long way. Okay, but that's the requirements process. And once requirements are finalized, what's the next step? What happens when requirements are finalized? What happens when requirements are finalized? That documentation. What's the next step? What happens next? Any idea what happens next? You know the answer.
Like they get signed off. Wait, hold on.
What happens after they're signed off?
Then the users can, like, depending on what it is.
You expect to continue a bit more? What do you mean by that?
I'm gonna read my note.
No problem. Don't worry about that. Like I don't want to put you on spot. I just want you to like use your critical thinking. Okay, just think
Okay.
about it.
So I guess like after it's signed off, then the users can like if it's an app, for example, then it's ready to be deployed. And then clients can use it.
Well, but before you can deploy it,
Oh,
requirements are finalized. It doesn't mean the application is
wait,
developed
after
yet.
requirements. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm a little sleep deprived.
no problem.
After the requirements are like finalized, then it gets sent to like the developers to like start working on it.
Yeah, exactly that. So that, but what I should be more specific. I should have said the requirement documentation is finalized. Once those documentations are finalized, you can send them out. You can send them to the developers, to the QAs, to the project managers, team. They can begin to review them at that point. Think about SDLC, okay? Planning analysis, design, requirements, planning analysis, requirements, design, and then you have development, testing. Once the requirements are finalized, they can be shared with the team. QAs and developers, you're not going to send them requirements that are half complete. No, they need to be set. They need to be signed up. Okay, that's what I mean by that. All right, moving forward. What makes a good requirement? This was already discussed in some of the videos that I had sent earlier. Like, everyone answers this question a little bit different. If you were to ask me what makes a good requirement without me like even looking at these notes, I would tell you a requirement that makes sense. It's specific. There's detail. It's written clearly so that anyone can understand the requirement. If you and I were to read the same requirement documentation, it should be written in a way that neither of us should have a difference in our understanding. It should be detail oriented. Okay. It needs to be analyzed thoroughly. Does this requirement make sense by itself? Does this requirement make sense with other requirements in our system that we're working with? How can I test the requirement? How can I basically come up with different scenarios for it? That's really it. All right. Traceable, measurable, all these things are important. A certain strategy that people use is smart. Okay. A requirement needs to be smart. And what does that really mean? It's an acronym. Okay, it's a popular acronym. But if you just say what I said and give a bit more detail in your answer, you're good. So let me take a quick pause. What makes a good requirement is a very, very important question. The way you answer this question will make or break your interviews. Because it's like asking a lawyer what is law. If the lawyer cannot give a good response to that, your interview is over. Same thing for this one for a BA. You must have a solid answer. Your answer must be clear. It must be to the point. It must like blow it out of the park. If you can deliver good answers for these kind of key questions, your interview will be so much easier and you will be a candidate for the position. These are the kind of questions you gotta focus on. Okay, so interview prep is important. I don't want to just like keep talking and like give you guys theory. Um, along with actual hands-on work, presentations are key. All right, and that's really this entire course. Concepts, assignments, presentations, interview questions. There's nothing else. It's all you need. That's really all you need, right? So we're really kind of like taking steps forward. So smart, specific, okay, clear. There should be no room for any misunderstandings the way the requirement is written. Something that is not clear would be like, hey, the sky was blue today. Your blue and my blue are two different things. I was not being very specific enough. What kind of blue are you talking about? And what do you mean by clear? Do you mean there were some clouds, 0 clouds, or there were like 5 clouds? If there were clouds, like what was the volume of the cloud? What was the density of that? Right? Like that's not specific. It's very ambiguous. At first, it might sound like a specific, but it's not, because you need to apply some kind of analysis to it. You need to think deeply about some of these requirements. Okay. That's where design comes important. That's where look and feel and analysis comes into play. Because sometimes it can get a bit complicated. And then that's where like your wits come into consistent, simple to understand, specific. It should be straightforward English. You're not writing a novel for somebody. You don't need to use fancy like vocabulary. You're not taking the SATs. No, keep it simple. That is a sign of a good requirement. No one is trying to look smart here. Just getting done. Measurable. It needs to be able to be quantifiable. Okay. So an example would be something like it should take our application 3 seconds to load. That is a measurable requirement. An unmeasurable requirement would be something like application should open. Okay, like and how long? All right, and open in what? All right, not enough detail. It's measurable. Attainable. We should be able to actually reach the requirement. Like I mentioned earlier, 20 years ago, images took like forever to load. If you wanted to load in a half a second, not possible. It's unattainable. It's impossible. Okay, reasonable. Does this requirement, is it worth actually requiring for us, or is it just out of scope? Is it needed? Do we want it versus do we need it? Is this requirement more important than other requirements? Because time is valuable, money is valuable. Okay, you need to rethink. Okay, I know you guys want this for our application, but we have a million things we're doing already. Is this new requirement really needed? Or is it just unnecessary? Right? And traceable. Requirements need to be connected. They need to be traceable. Very critical word to have. Traceable. Okay. A lot of these highlights, by the way, please memorize. Please understand. Traceable means, where does this requirement come from? What is the reason for this requirement? Is there a law that we need to follow? Is there a business process that we need to achieve? Is there a business requirement that needs to be like set for this? Like, why do we have this requirement? If I say the application needs to load in 3 seconds, why is it 3 seconds? Like, what's the reason? Okay, where does it come from? Where does it trace down from? That is traceability, because requirements are individual, but they're also connected. You could have a million different requirements that all connect to the same like epic, which is the same like general idea. That's another throwback. Epic. What is an epic? An epic is like a combination of multiple requirements into a certain process. And epics are broken down into user stories, aka requirements, right? And that is a traceability. That is a connection. As we begin to like actually do projects, as we begin to actually do like, let's say examples, everything that you learned is going to come into play, because everything will really need to be reinforced. And yeah, you guys need to have a sound understanding of these processes, because there really is not too much more to what you need to know, right? It's more like how to do it, how to execute it, and how to talk about it. Majority of the concepts have kind of like been taught to an extent, right? We have to go deeper into those topics. We have to have our hands on them. But based on what I've explained to you guys, even just theory is enough to get you hired, because it just demonstrates core knowledge, and companies will hire you based on knowledge. Okay, but does it mean you can perform at the job there? No, not at all. You don't know how to do it yet. You know what needs to be done, but you don't know how to do it yet. That part is missing. All right, because so far it's just been theory and concepts and processes that I've taught you. You may know what BA is, but you may not know how to do it. Yeah. All right. That is what makes for a good requirement, just some basic guidelines. I've like screenshot some of the videos that I sent you guys before. I'll share them again. How to write requirements, what to avoid, what the do's and don'ts. You guys are smarter, to be honest. As you see actual requirements, as you read requirements and look at actual documentation, you will pick it up. Learning fast is key. Learning quickly, learning as you go is key. Learning from others, be a sponge. Absorb information. Like I mentioned, so far it's been processes, lectures. Next step is actually do it. And as you do it, your confidence will shoot up. Your ability to conversate about it will shoot up. And that's all that means. Okay. Not gonna really cover too much more right now. It's just self-explanatory when I send you guys documentation. How to write requirements, what you should avoid, what you should like keep an eye out for. It's really just talking points, because what if you're asked, hey, do you guys have any tips for writing requirements? And if I were to ask like either of you three, like right now, your answer would be mainly on just theory. Hey, like I know issue specific, but when you begin to actually write it, when you begin to do it yourself, you will formulate a stronger understanding of it and a stronger answer. Okay. All right, cool. All right, this is basically just like a summary of what we've talked about. We'll get more to that next class. Any questions for today? Thoughts, comments? Yeah,
I just
you're
had one
unmuted.
question.
Sure.
I mean, this is not like in relation to, because for my current job, I am developing an app. It's not necessary for me to do all the BA stuff, but I did want to take that approach for it just to be prepared when I make the transition.
Mhm.
Would you count that as a project, or would you want that to be separate?
Say that one more time.
Because I know you, like you're planning to have us do the mock documentation and everything.
Yeah.
Would I be able to like use what I'm doing right now, or should I are we going to do something completely different?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. So good question. You can do both, really. All right. Both is good. I will have my own project for you guys to work on, which
Mhm.
captures all these different topics so that you can actually practice and become comfortable with that. But I do really like if you guys have one that comes from your own job. And the reason I recommend that is because I utilize that with my students over the years. And I like it because you already have expertise in your application. If you are working at, let's say, Chase, you can talk about Chase. You know how they do things. You know what kind of applications they use. You may have inside knowledge that I do not have about a system. And if you can suppose that, hey, I'm a BA for this application, what better person is there than you to talk about your project? So your current company, I don't know the details of it yet. I just have a general idea from what you said. Um, if you are able to like utilize that as an example, as a project, that is phenomenal. And that's going to help you a lot. Okay. We have to talk more about that though, right? Just so we can lay things out. Cool. All right. Anything else?
No, that was all.
Okay. Sheen, Shuha, anything from you guys?
Nope, nothing from my end.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Um, so yeah, Frank and Sheen, like whatever I want to talk to you about was pretty much just covered in today's session as well. Let's hop on a call like either later tonight or tomorrow. I have no issue with whichever. Okay, let me know what works for you. All right. But the main things I want to talk about were kind of discussed today. What else I wanted to discuss was just like moving forward, what to expect. I mentioned the assignments and actual hands-on work. That's something that I want to talk to you guys about because right now, processes. Understand the process. Understand all of this. Study this. Go back and study. I don't know if you guys are studying yet, okay? Because I haven't quizzed you guys yet. That's something that I want to talk to you guys about. Go and learn these things. If you do not have these things like digested or a solid understanding of it, go and study it. That's something I want to talk to all of you guys about. Hey, I taught Scrum like 2-3 weeks ago. What do you recall from that? Do you remember what a sprint planning meeting is? A sprint review meeting, a demo meeting, a prospective meeting. These are must knows. And if you do not know, it means you have work to do. It means you have studying to do. So that's kind of like what I want to talk to you guys about as well. Okay. What is your studying looking like right now? Where are you with certain concepts, certain processes? And how I basically check that is by interview. I'm going to tell you something like, hey, for next week, study Agile Scrum. Be ready to talk about it. Be ready for interview questions. Be ready to explain these concepts to me. That is what needs to be done. Okay. That goes for everybody, right? And of course, these concepts we covered today as well, study them, understand them, be able to speak about them. If I ask you guys, what is a product manager? You should be able to define what a project manager is, a product manager is. If I ask you, what is a BA do? You should be able to define that. What's their functional requirement versus non-functional requirement? What's the performance requirement? What is user experience? All these things you need to know. Okay. I'm telling you like that's it. What gets you hired is fundamentals, communication skills, people skills, being liked by your interviewer will get you a long way. It's like we talked about already, being a BA means working well with people, communicating properly, handling yourself well. There's a reason why I have zero doubt 3 of you can get hired in this field. So I know enough BAs, other type, not an issue. Believe me, you just need the opportunity and you need to be ready for the opportunity. And I want to monitor how ready are you, okay? Because there's no point being in the market if you don't know what you're talking about. All right, that will just be demotivating. All right, questions? Juha, Nasheen, yeah, anything else?
Nope, all good.
Okay,
Question, but I think
yes.
these notes are really helpful. Where can I access this?
Okay, so I will put this up on the group chat right now.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
I happened to miss last week's class. Do you have a recording of it?
I did like SQL and I was like kind of just one day. The class that I taught, I have like videos of previous ones that are a little bit better, so I can send that to you. I
This
would
one,
not,
your
yeah,
last class was
I'll
SQL
send it.
from,
Yeah,
right?
SQL. So I would not prioritize that over what we learned today
Okay.
and Agile. Okay, that'd be like a lower priority compared to this.
Right.
So yeah, that's another thing I want to talk to you guys about is also what should you prioritize, like work-wise. The main concepts, the main BA role. What is a BA? What do they do? Communication, analytical skills, this and that. What are requirements? How do you manage requirements? The entire requirement management process. You need to know. Documentation. which I haven't fully covered yet, to be honest, right? But I touched off on. You don't need to know too much, just the fundamentals. You need to have a core understanding. And what I mean by documentation really though, is how to document requirements. What kind of different documentation are there? What's the definition and terminology of these documents? You need to know that because in interviews, they'll speak to you as if you already know it. Okay. So you need to know what a BRD is, FRD, SRS, design document, user story, use case. There can be zero room for confusion with those things. And the only way you can really understand that is by creating them. All right. So yeah. Let's put it this way, like the time for lectures is coming to an end pretty soon because there's not too much more in the lecture. Now it's just hands-on and actual workish. So the style of our classes will need to change too, because it is going to be a bit less lecture-y because covered a lot of it, right? There isn't so much more to cover. Now it's just learning how to do it and me making sure you learn your shit. All right. And interviews. Not so much more. Okay. I'll share the document with you guys. Nishina, I'll reach out to you guys again tomorrow as well. Okay, and we'll recap some of the concepts and we'll get on a call tomorrow, guys. If there's anything else, just let me know. Okay, please reach out to me. With that said, have a good night, guys. Talk soon.
Well, thanks for chat.
Thanks
Bye.
all.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Wait.